Good morning, very early morning. It is, let's see, Friday, August 13th at about 20 minutes to 7. My name is Larry Cedar, and I'm back with you for another session on scanning, spelled Sqanning. Scanning is a relaxation technique which utilizes the incremental release of muscular tension, small amounts, 3, 2, 1, release. Incremental release of muscular tension to achieve a deep state of physical, emotional, and mental calm. So it's a relaxation technique. It's spelled with a Q, but it's in reference to the word scanning with a C, like scanning the body, looking for pockets of muscular tension. The whole premise of this approach is that we will use release of muscular tension to influence the entire state of consciousness. And it's a pretty basic approach because it's the simplest approach. There's no logical or intellectual or mental labyrinth you have to navigate to get to this state of relaxation. You simply have to release muscular tension. The reason being that as you release muscular tension, it induces what's called an expanded state as opposed to contracted. And as you start to expand one part of your body, even the smallest part, like your hand, 3, 2, 1, release. If you start to do that and you do it consistently and repeatedly over the course of 5 minutes, 10 minutes, a half an hour, it starts to induce this expanded state in your consciousness, in your body, that in turn influences your mind and your emotions, and things which have been very troublesome and bothersome to you, either mentally or physically or emotionally, begin to be alleviated, and you feel better. You come to a state of emptiness, nothingness, peace, calm, and hopefully joy. So again, scanning, the incremental release of muscular tension to achieve a deep state of physical, emotional, and mental calm. So, based on the premise by a man named Thaddeus Golas, Golas, who wrote the book The Lazy Man's Guide to Enlightenment, that the universe is based on two primary functions: contraction, squeeze your hands together, see what that feels like, that's contraction, and expansion. We're going to release, 3, 2, 1, and release, expansion. Contraction, expansion. Everything in the universe is fluctuating somewhere between or within a state of contraction or expansion. And when you begin to look at the world that way and see that that's the basic fundamental building blocks of the universe, that includes yourself, your consciousness, you can begin to see the world through that prism and see where you are on that spectrum at any given moment. Am I more contracted or am I more expanded? Now, contraction is not a bad thing. Contraction is what keeps things together. Contraction, keep it together. That's where that expression comes from. Attention, tension, right? So that's useful. You vacillate in life through between contraction and expansion. What you want is a balance. So when you become overly contracted, you want to use any technique, anything that makes you expand, including scanning. This is one way to expand. So you get overly contracted, you move towards expansion until you are centered or balanced. So that's the goal. And because we tend in life, out of fear, to contract, to think too much, to physically tense up, to become restricted, constrained, limited, impermeable, out of fear, because it's a survival mechanism, contraction, we tend to be more contracted than expanded. So this technique, or any other thing which you choose to use in your life that allows you to expand, allows you to bring that balance back into your life. I've chosen this technique. I developed this technique, and I've chosen to use it on a very regular basis because it consistently brings me out of overly contracted states. So how do you know when you're overcontracted? Well, you find yourself saying, I need a drink. I need a vacation. I'm thinking obsessively about something. I can't let it go. Things just aren't working. I'm trying so hard and everything's just getting worse. You're probably overly contracted. Generally speaking, you feel pretty bad when you're overly contracted, you know. Contraction could be fantastic. Playing a Beethoven composition on the piano involves a lot of contraction, thinking, practicing, developing muscle memory and control, understanding music theory. These are contractions. They're bringing together of thoughts, ideas, materials, substances to advance an agenda. It's fantastic contraction. It's the stuff of life. It's only when we're overly contracted and we need some relief that we look for techniques like scanning, because they allow us to expand. And I always say that if you walk down the grocery aisle at the market, the liquor section, the wines and the whiskeys and the scotches and the vodkas, and you see how desperately people need to expand. It's a chemical expansion. And that's fine if that works for you. We do know there's side effects to drugs and alcohol that we don't necessarily want. So if you can find a natural way to expand, why not do it? This is one way out of a million, and this works for me, so I share it with you. If it resonates for you, that makes me very glad. So let's get started. I've said a lot, and that's a lot of contraction, actually. So now let's begin to expand. Again, nothing wrong with contraction, but we want to focus today on expansion. Squeeze your hands together, tight, 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 and see what that feels like here on this Friday at 6:45 in the morning. So this is what we do. This is what we do when we're trying to get things done. This is what we do when we worry, when we try to accomplish things, when we fret, when we're physically tense, when we're trying to get strong through workouts, when we're trying to, in my case, memorize lines for a play or rehearse a play. Contraction, bringing it together, putting it together, keeping it together, maintaining a position. Okay, that's good. That's strength. See how good it feels to feel strong, to be able to squeeze your hands together. But if you hold this for an extended length of time, your hands might begin to feel sore. You might feel like, well, I'd rather do something else with my hands, but I'm kind of stuck in this decision. All sorts of complications can arise from being overly contracted. Now my hands are actually starting to, feel a little sore. So in life, when we're overly contracted, there's a simple solution, and that is to expand. So with Sqanning, we're just using the release of muscular tension as a form of expansion. On my count, 3, 2, 1, and release. So we just expanded. It's that simple. You've just expanded. And the great thing about the contraction-expansion continuum is you can't do both at the same time. You can't contract and expand at the same time. You can't squeeze your hands together and release the tension in your hands at the same time. So the moment you've begun to expand, you've stopped contracting on a certain level, to a certain degree. It's fantastic. So you're already started. See how simple it is? And this technique, Sqanning, is designed for simplicity. You can be taught in 30 seconds. It can be practiced for as long as you like. The challenge is starting, because when we're contracted, we tend not to want to let go. It feels secure. So the first step is to let go. Squeeze your hands tight, 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 and just make that decision. This is purely a symbolic introductory technique for getting into the practice. Squeeze your hands, and on my count, completely let go of all the tension in your hands. Now this time, you're going to let them drop to your lap, and you're going to take a series of 3 deep breaths. Breaths are also expansive, okay? And then we're going to sit for 30 seconds in absolute stillness and silence. And we'll talk about why that's expansive in a second. But squeeze tight, tight, tight. And on my count, you're going to completely release all the tension in your hands. Let them drop to your lap. 3 deep breaths, 30 seconds of absolute stillness and silence. Here we go. 3, contracting, tight. 2, ready to let go. And 1, release. Drop your hands to your sides. Take 3 deep breaths. Now just sit in absolute stillness and silence for 30 seconds. Don't move a muscle, but continue to breathe. Take a deep breath. And just register the changes you feel from that slight amount of expansion. This is what I call the preliminary phase of Sqanning. It's sort of a warm-up of sorts. So let's review. Squeeze, that's contraction. Going to release, 3, 2, 1, expansion. Series of deep breaths. Why? Breaths are expansive by nature, filling your lungs. And you'll notice that when you're tense, sometimes you're holding your breath. Holding is contracted. Releasing, breathing, is expansive. So breaths are always a very simple way to expand. Nothing I'm telling you, I'm sure, is surprising to you. You'll notice how when you're nervous, sometimes you'll just take a deep breath, or when some strenuous or tense event has occurred, and when it's over, you take a breath. You're ready to expand again. Stillness and silence, because the opposite of motion and noise is stillness and silence. Now, I spent the first 10 minutes of this session, or 5 minutes, talking, explaining. Those are all contractions. When I became silent, I began to expand because I stopped contracting. Again, you can't contract and expand at the same time. So any one of these, squeeze, release, deep breaths, stillness and silence, are expansive by nature. Very simple preliminary steps if you want to get the ball rolling. And it's important with this process to acknowledge that even the smallest expansion moves you away from contraction. So if you feel like, I can't learn this, it's too complicated, it's too hard, I haven't got the time, no, take a breath. You've expanded. Release muscle tension. You've expanded. Sit for 10 seconds in stillness and silence. You've expanded. And that's all we're trying to do, is expand. To bring ourselves from contraction, expansion, into balance, to be centered. Okay? We're going to repeat these preliminary steps a few times. And then we're going to go into what I call the nuts and bolts of the technique, which is the focused release of muscular tension, scanning the body, looking for pockets of muscular tension that will, again, move us into this expanded state. So squeeze your hands together, tight, 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 tight. See what that feels like? That's contraction. And already my hands feel more relaxed just from this 5 minutes of expansive action. I feel my muscles feel more effective, more relaxed. I feel calmer. I feel more settled into my chair. Squeeze. 3, 2, 1, and release. That's expansion. Drop your hands to your lap. 3 deep breaths, followed by 30 seconds of absolute stillness and silence. Deep, expansive breaths. We're reversing the process of contraction, and we're expanding. 3 deep, deep breaths, 30 seconds, absolute stillness and silence. Here we go. Deep as you can. 30 seconds, absolute stillness and silence. Deep breath. Now, I'm sort of setting a pace. I'm doing this at a certain level. Feel free to do this as you see fit. If you find that just taking deep breaths does it for you, great. If you feel it sitting in absolute stillness and silence does it for you, great. One of the things I've learned from this technique and, in my life and generally is that what I'm experiencing is unique to me. No matter what commonality we have, ultimately everyone's having their own experience of any particular event or practice. So that said, I can't say what works for you exactly. I can approximate based on generalizations I've made about the human body and the consciousness and so forth that I believe apply across the board simply because I've heard other people talk about them in a similar way. But if you find a way that helps you expand a rhythm, go with that. That's why I say if, somewhere in the middle of the session, I'd rather go sing a song, sing a song. If you say, I'd rather go golf, go golf. One thing I don't recommend is that you sit in front of the TV or your phone. These tend to be contractive activities, even though often we'll sit in front of our phone or our TV and someone will say to you, what are you doing? You go, well, I'm relaxing. You're paying attention. You're paying attention. And again, the operative word in that word is tension. You're maintaining a contracted state. That focus is contraction. So I would recommend, if you want to expand, you put down your phone, you turn off the television, and you move into a place of stillness and silence. That's much more expansive. Let's do this one more time, then we'll move into the nuts and bolts. Squeeze your hands together tight, 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 and see if you feel a difference. See if you feel a difference in the sensations now that your body has relaxed or expanded, even the slightest amount. Everything seems more effective. This feels good. And, you can call it a warm-up or whatever you like, but warm-up basically means your muscles are relaxing and they're expanding. So you have expanded, and any amount of expansion counts. So tight, tight, tight on my count. You're going to release all the tension in your hands, let it drop to your lap. You're going to take 5 deep breaths, followed by a full 60 seconds of absolute stillness and silence. So squeeze real tight. Feel that contraction. That's an important, valuable part of life, but we want to balance that with expansion. So here we go on my count. 3, 2, 1, and release. Feel the difference. Drop your hands to your sides. 5 deep breaths followed by 60 seconds. Absolute stillness and silence. 5 deep breaths. Deep as you can. 3, 4. Last one. And if you get a little dizzy, that's okay. You're changing states of consciousness. It can be disoriented, particularly if you've been in a contracted state. 60 seconds, absolute stillness and silence. Just count slowly to 60. Thirty more seconds. 10 more seconds. Deep breath. And take an assessment of where you are. Sometimes it's useful to say, well, if I started out at a contraction level of, let's say, 10, am I now at a 8, 7? If I'd gone from a 10 to a 9.5, that would be sensational. Any amount of expansion is a movement away from contraction. And again, contraction is not evil or bad. It's just one side of the equation, and you want to be balanced. It's when we become overly contracted that we feel bad. And if you can bring yourself into a more expanded state, you can achieve that balance. Now, one of the reasons I'm up this early doing this is because last night, as frequently happens with me, I became obsessed mentally with some concern I have about some issue I'm dealing with in my life, and I couldn't let it go. And I was winding up, I guess you could say. There's any number of ways to describe it. And that's a situation where someone might say, I need to take a pill, I need to have a drink, I need something because this is obviously not working. And so I did what I always do. I scanned. And as usual, I was reluctant to start because I wanted to hang on to that obsessive thinking. It felt somehow like a security blanket, but I know enough now to know that that's not good. But even though I logically knew it, my body was fighting expansion. It didn't want to breathe and sit still and let go of muscular tension. It was fighting that. But eventually, if you stay with it, your body will understand where it's going and it will release. Now, the interesting thing was that thought, that issue I was dealing with, seemed like at that moment the most important issue in the world. It had to be dealt with now. It had to be thought about now. I couldn't let go of thinking about it because if I did, that would mean I wasn't solving the problem. So I was obsessing on it. As I began to expand, suddenly what I would say is the muscular release influences the mind, a muscle of sorts, to release and let go of these obsessive thoughts. As I began to expand, that thought just drifted away and suddenly I wasn't thinking about it at all. Once again, I had proven to myself, as I do every day, that this technique works for me, but hopefully for you. If it seems like it resonates for you, if it makes sense to you, fantastic. If not, I do these sessions to practice scanning, to practice expansion on my own. It's a half an hour of time I put into it that is valuable to me. All I can hope is that it's valuable to you as well. So I woke up and I said, I have to do a session because once again, I've confirmed for myself that this works, and I hope it works for you. So let's continue. We've done what's called the preliminary. Now we're going to move into what I call the nuts and bolts of the technique, and that is the incremental release of muscular tension on a very specific level. As you begin to release pockets of muscular tension throughout your body, and you have them everywhere, that's why we're going to scan our body. Your entire body starts to let go, relax, release, expand. It starts to give into that process until it recognizes that that actually feels better than what you were doing, which was holding muscular tension. Necessary sometimes, but not when you're overly contracted. It can be exhausting. Your body starts to go, wait a minute, this feels good. And it starts to give into that process and let go. And you're completely relaxed. And your mind begins to clear. As I said, for the reasons stated before, the mind, like a muscle, starts to let go. And you are left in a state of emptiness, calm, stillness, peace, quiet, still, joy. So let's get started on what I call the nuts and bolts. I've divided my body into what I call the 8 muscular zones. You can do it however you like, but if you want to follow along with me and then come up with your own, you can. And we focus on particular muscle areas because it's easier to concentrate on the release of muscular tension on a specific area as opposed to the entire body. So we start with the face, zone 1. So scrunch your face up. Now release. So you see the muscular control you have over your face. So it's one of the easiest places to start because we can sense when our face is active and when we've let it go. See that drooping? That's release. So on my count, I want you to release the muscular tension in your face, however much you can. It could be just a tiny bit or it could be a lot, but I want you to most importantly feel that shift. The face, 3, 2, 1, and release. And you see my face just drooped? And I felt that. And hopefully you felt it too. So that's what we're going to do now through the entire body. We're going to practice releasing muscular tension. You're going to get better at, if anything with this technique, you're going to get better at releasing muscular tension. Now we get very good at using muscular tension to play piano, to hammer a hammer, to sing a song, to form words and sentences and ideas. We're very good at contracting. That's how we get through our day. It's the stuff of life. But we don't practice as much as we should expansion. Again, we frequently choose to use a chemical assist. You know, it's so much easier than just trying to relax my muscles. I'll just have a shot, or I'll drink a few beers, or I'll go to a masseuse, or I'll go to a therapist, or I'll take a vacation. we find ways to have expansion applied to us. And what we're trying to learn here is that we can apply it ourselves. We can actually induce expansion ourselves. So that's why we practice the face. You ready? 3, 2, 1, and release. There it goes. Just feel that change. Just sit with that for a minute. Now my face is expanded, relaxed. Let's do it again. The face. 3, 2, 1, and release. I like using the face first because you can look in the mirror and see the change. 3, 2, 1, and you kind of look dumb. You've let go of the muscular tension. It's the same as this. 3, 2, 1, release. Same as this. 3, 2, 1, release. But we're practicing it all through the body. So that's the face. One more time. 3, 2, 1, and feel that shift. That's all this technique is about. That little shift from contraction to expansion. And what you'll see as we practice, you'll start to take over your entire body. Zone 2 is the top of the head. 3, 2, 1, and release. Now you go, what? How do I feel the top of the head? Well, think about it for a minute. Think about just letting it go. One of the techniques you're going to develop with this practice is the ability to tune in on different parts of your body and take an assessment. How contracted is it? And see if you can shift that. The top of the head. 3, 2, 1, and release. And you feel your brow drop. You feel a sort of a kind of a slackening of the musculature and the skin on the top of your head. You feel a sort of like you had a cap that was made of wood and suddenly it just turned into whipped cream. It just went, just drooping down the side of your head, the top of the head. 3, 2, 1, and release. There it goes. Next, zone 3, the back of the head. Same thing. 3, 2, 1, and release. Now you've done the face, the top of the head, the back of the head. Do them all together. 3, 2, 1, and release. Now, every time I start to get into this in these upper areas, at some point my shoulders drop. The body is a unit. You may think you have a foot and a knee and an elbow and they're all acting separately, but they're not. Everything that happens in one part of your body is experienced in the other. You are a unit. You are a whole. So as the feet, the knees, the shoulders start to feel that there's some relaxation, some expansion going on in another part of the body, they start to tune in and go, what's happening? Can I join in? You're moving yourself in a direction. You're guiding. You're steering the ship. Or as I like to say, you're conducting the orchestra. You're starting to direct your body to move in a certain direction of your choosing, in this case, expansion. Zone 4 is the neck. 3, 2, 1, and release. There it goes. We carry a lot of tension in our neck. It's our vocal guard. When we have feelings we're worried about coming out, we control them. Worried about people getting in, we control. This is our gate. It's a gate. Zone 4, the neck. 3, 2, 1, and release. There it goes. And again, the neck. 3, 2, 1, and release. Take a deep breath. Another. So we're mixing all of these in. These are all expansive muscular techniques. These are physical techniques. One of the other advantages of practicing scanning is you're concentrating so hard on physical control that you tend to not think. It takes you out of your head. And I've always said that you can't relax a muscle and think a thought at the same time. Not when you put your full concentration into that release of muscular tension. It stops you from thinking. All your focus and energy goes into that muscular release. So it's another way to let go of mental contraction. Zone 5 is the shoulders. You may have felt them drop a little bit already. We're going to let them drop even further. On my count, 3, 2, 1, release them and release. Okay. Let's do them all. We did the face, the top of the head, the back of the head, the neck, the shoulders. All of that's just going to let go on my count. 3, 2, 1, and release. Take a deep breath. Another. One more. 15 seconds, absolute stillness and silence. You know, I mentioned the phone earlier, putting down the phone, turning off the TV. So I just started noticing on my phone there's something called digital well-beingness. Well-being. I'm on Android, and it's a feature of Android in settings, and it'll show you how many hours you spent on your phone. I was stunned to find out the other day that I had spent 6 hours on my phone. I wasn't even aware of it. Checking my email, playing games, going on websites to read the news or other, trivial, websites which just showed things of interest, videos, things like that. 6 hours. Wow. And, talk about contraction. It's a way to focus on something, to make you feel something, to make you feel safe, like something's taking your mind off of things or entertaining you or giving you information. It's a very contracted process. Again, nothing wrong with that. Very useful. But start to think about and be careful about how you allot your time. You've only got so many hours in a day. How much do you want to spend contracting? How much do you want to spend expanding? So if we want to balance our life, be careful not to do just too much contracting. That's when you start to feel out of sorts and unhappy. And truthfully, I felt pretty tense yesterday. I had no idea that I'd spent so much time on my phone. So I am consciously making the decision. I'm not saying, I'm getting off of the internet or I'm getting off of Facebook. Nah, they're all great. They're useful. But try to take some time during the day when you would normally contract through your phone and take a second to take 5 minutes to expand, breathe, take deep breaths, sit in stillness and silence instead. Release muscular tension. Try to substitute that and see if you feel more balanced at the end of the day. And it's difficult because contraction is so seductive. It feels so good. It feels so powerful. It feels so safe. Expanding feels so vulnerable, so exposed, so boring. But experiment with it and start to see what it does for you. So we did the shoulders. Now we're going to move into zone 6, the chest, stomach in front of the waist. On my count, 3, 2, 1, and relax. Relax, release, same thing. Chest, stomach, front of the waist. On my count, just let them go. A tiny amount, the incremental release of muscular tension. You're letting go of small pockets of muscular tension that you may not even have been aware you were holding. 3, 2, 1, the chest, stomach, and waist, and release. You feel that? Slight, subtle change. That's all we're looking for. Incremental release from this to this, from this to this, from this to this. Let go, let go, let go, let go. Zone 7 is down the back and into the pelvic area. Very powerful area of tension, the pelvis. You have lots of impulses in those areas: sexual, waste elimination, areas of embarrassment, concern, fears, anxieties, pleasure. So there's a lot of tension in that area, and see if you can just let it go. 1 degree, 3, 2, 1, and release. You go, no, I got to take control of that area, of all the areas. I got to keep control of that area. Well, nothing's going to happen. You're just sitting in a chair in a room. There's no one around. So just see if you can let go of the smallest amount of muscular tension. Release. The back down into the pelvis. 3, 2, 1, and release. There it goes. You have to feel it. 3, 2, 1, and release. And it shows you how powerful contraction is, how much we hang on to it, because for some people, the mere idea of letting go of tension in certain parts of their body is unthinkable. I can't let go of that area. I can't, no. I'll lose control. I don't know, things will get in and things will get out. No. So start to explore what areas you can release a tiny amount of muscular tension safely and see if what that does for you. And you'll start to see that as you start to push the limits, you let go more and more tension, you'll see you can let go. You can let go. It's not going to kill you. It just feels like it's going to kill you. Sometimes expansion is very frightening. The simple letting go of muscular tension is very frightening. It releases emotions. It releases feelings, sensations. It opens a door that you feel might allow access by threatening forces. Letting go of muscular tension is challenging on an emotional, physical level, but you can explore it in incremental ways, tiny amounts. 7, down the back and into the pelvis. 3, 2, 1, and release. There it goes. You feel that? The back and into the pelvis, you're going to shift from this to this, from this to this, from this to this, from this to this. The back down into the pelvis. 3, 2, 1, and release. There you go. Now you've released tiny amounts of muscular tension in 7 zones. Okay, let's review. 1, the face. 2, the top of the head. 3, the back of the head. 4, as I'm saying these, they're all just letting go. 4, the neck, let it go. 5, the shoulders, let them drop. 6, the chest, stomach, front of the waist, just let it slump. 7, down the back and into the pelvis, just let it go. Sink into your seat. Finally, zone 8, down the legs, across the knees, and into the feet. Think about the feet. And when I say think about a part of your body, literally think about it. Put your attention there. Focus your energy. You may begin to feel that area start to throb, because what that does is when you focus your energy on an area, it tells your body that this area needs attention. It immediately starts to send blood to that area because it assumes that it needs healing. The blood circulating into an injured area is one of the most healing things that can happen because it's bringing oxygen, it's bringing nutrients. Sometimes throbbing can be painful, but that's your body's reaction to injury. Throw all of its forces, all of its defenses into that area. So think about your feet and see if you can begin to feel them throb a little bit. And now in general, as you begin to expand and relax, you'll be more aware of the beating of your heart. You're opening up the blood vessels, just as the muscles relax. The muscles of the blood vessels relax, allowing for a stronger flow of blood from your heart. So you may begin to feel a pulsing. You may have a heightened consciousness of the beating of your heart. That's excellent. Because what we're going to end up, the state we're going to end up in ultimately, is a state of just being, experiencing just being. One of the most fundamental feelings when you're doing nothing, when your mind is clear and your body is relaxed and you're just experienced a state of being, is a consciousness of the beating of your heart. Feel it. That's it. That's the motor of your very being. You can go brain dead and still be alive. Your body will function. But if your heart stops, it's over. This is it. And it's a very powerful experience to become conscious of your motor, the source of your very existence. Now you may say, well, what defines a person? Well, his name, his title, his bank account, his job, how much money he has in the bank, and what he's accomplished in his life. Yes, these are all things that define you. But what fundamentally defines you as a human being is the beating of your heart. If you have a beating heart, you're alive. It doesn't get any more fundamental than that. And if you can visit that place, if you can come to that place, as I like to say, at least a couple times a day, it gives you a great sense of strength and security and spiritual consciousness, because you go, this is the essence of me, the beating of my heart. I am a human being, a physical being with a beating heart. Then you add to that everything else, your consciousness and your name, your title, how many friends you have on Facebook or followers on Twitter or Instagram, all that you think defines you. But what really defines you is your heart. So I said, direct your energy, direct your focus to your feet, and you may begin to feel them throb. So you're becoming more conscious of your expanded self, your simple, most basic, fundamental, or as I like to call, original self. So think about the feet, and on my count, see if you can release the smallest amount of tension. The feet, 3, 2, 1, and release. And again, the feet, 3, 2, 1, and release. Once more, the feet, 3, 2, 1, and release. There they go. You'll feel a sort of spreading, as if you just took your shoes off and your feet are going. And this sound I'm about to make is the essence of scanning, of incremental release. Your feet will go, ah. When you're keeping it together in life, when you're paying attention, as I said, the operative part of that word is tension. You're holding, you're holding, you're holding. And that's a good thing. We do have to keep it together, but we need that balance. And when you let go of muscular tension, you're basically saying, guys, you can take a few minutes off. You can let go. Muscular tension contraction requires energy, requires effort. So it's exhausting on a certain level. It uses up your energy stores. When you let go, you stop using that energy and you just exist. You're not trying to do anything. You're not going anywhere. You're not thinking about anything. You just exist. It's about as low an energy usage point as you can get. You're at maintenance level energy expenditure. So you feel relieved. You're not having to work so hard. Your body can recuperate, rejuvenate. You're not depleting yourself. You're replenishing yourself. So again, balance. You don't want to live there. You need to do both, but you want to be centered. So what we've done in these sessions is we've worked towards expansion. So these sessions last only a half an hour. You could go for an hour. You can go for 2 hours. You could do them as long as you like. I've done sessions for myself as long as an hour and a half, just because I just kind of was going there and I wanted to keep going. Don't always have to do that. You could do a session that's 1 minute long. Take a deep breath. Sit for a minute in stillness and silence. Any amount of expansion moves you away from contraction, which brings you into balance. So that's it for today. It's called Sqanning. Sqanning, spelled with a Q, but it references scanning the body. Sqanning is a relaxation technique which utilizes the incremental release of muscular tension from this to this, from this to this, from this to this, from this to this. The incremental release of muscular tension to achieve a deep state of physical, emotional, and mental calm. So I'll take an assessment as I always do. If I started this session at a 10, and I'm pretty much live at a 10, I brought myself, I feel, to a 6. I feel the difference. I feel the difference. If I'd gone to a 9, I would have felt the difference. You can feel the difference. And again, it's not like you're trying to win a medal, but you're just trying to build a consciousness, an awareness of what it is to move from a contracted state into an expanded state. And to note that you have the power to do that for yourself with a very simple, free technique. I love it. I'm devoted to it. I practice every day, and I try to do one public session every day for anyone who also feels this might be of benefit to them. So that's it. I will repost this session on my personal Facebook page, which I always do. I keep it there for a while, but then I move it off eventually to the Sqanning Facebook page, Sqanning. Just search for Sqanning, spelled with a Q, on Facebook. Like and follow if you want alerts whenever there's a live stream starting like this. I also post it on, I have a YouTube Sqanning page, but not all sessions, but some. And that's it. I look forward to seeing you again. I hope this was of benefit to you. I hope you enjoyed it. I always end every session with rule number 1, love yourself, love yourself, love yourself. Love is the most expansive act you can take in the universe because it opens you. It makes you permeable. It allows you to merge with others, as opposed to when you are not loving yourself and you're in denial and you are contracted and you conflict with others and with life. So love yourself. This is what you were given, for better or worse. I have lots of things about myself that I really don't like, but I try to love myself, to love it all, because I'm a human being, and that's what human beings are. So when you love everything about yourself, you're loving your very being, and that allows you to love others. And that's what we hope we can do to heal this world. Take care. Have yourself a great weekend. See you next time. Bye-bye.